What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I came on here and did a proper tutorial. This video is going to be a pattern tutorial for a palazzo trouser. So this I did last year, but I didn't really show you guys how I made the pattern and how I cut the trouser. So in this video I'm going to be working from my basic trouser pattern and then going on to make a beautiful pair of palazzo pants in Ankara print. But first of all, I would like to thank you guys so much for all of the prayers, the love, the support, because I recently got married in Nigeria, a traditional wedding, and I was away for about 2 weeks. But throughout that time period, even when I put up pictures and videos on social media, you guys were so lovely, and I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful to have such a supportive community of women, men, boys and girls who genuinely sort of support and care about what I do and where I'm at life. And thank you so much. And I'm like, all the comments and all of the love was like really warm and overwhelming. So thank you. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. This is going to be a strictly pattern tutorial. My next video is going to be the sewing, because you guys know I like to size things down into bite-sized chunks so it's easy to consume at a time. But if you'd like to see how I make this pattern, make sure to keep on watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a thumbs up if you want me to continue making pattern tutorials here on YouTube. So let's get straight into this. Watch it until the end and let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'm going to be working with the following materials to make this palazzo pattern. I'm using my basic trouser block, which I've already done from scratch in the previous tutorial. I'm going to link down below if you haven't seen it already. So I just made sure to duplicate my front and my back so I keep my original pattern. I also have some thread, and then I have this Ankara print which I'll be working with later on. I have a zip, and then I have some matching lining to go with the fabric. I also have my long ruler for my long lines. I have my pattern master, my paper scissors, fabric scissors, my small baby scissors, tape measure, my marker pen, and my pen. So the first thing I'm going to be doing, like I said earlier on, to duplicate the trouser patterns, your front and your back, especially if you want to keep your original simple trouser pattern. So I went ahead and I did that, and this is my duplicate which I'm going to be working with. The first thing I'm going to be doing to this front piece here is I'm going to be dividing it into 4 panels, and they are about 2 inches from each other. So I'm just drawing in the first one here. I'm going ahead to draw a second line that goes through the waist dot, and then it goes all the way to the bottom. Then I'm going to go ahead and draw another line so I can have my 4 panels complete. But like I said earlier on, the panels are about 2 inches or 2.5 inches apart, so there is sort of uniformity across the board. So I'm just going ahead to draw my final line to divide this front pattern like I want it. So then I'm going to go ahead and slash along these drawn vertical lines. You want to make sure you cut from the bottom up onto the edge of the waistline, but not right through, just to the very edge, so when it's time to spread these panels apart, it's a lot easier to do. I'm just using my paper scissors here to cut up this last vertical line, cutting it up until my waist, and then going on to cut some fresh pattern paper because we need to spread this. But first up, I'm just going on to mark which panel is which from 1 all the way to 4, so I know which panel I am working with. To the fun part of actually spreading our slashed panels, I cut fresh pattern paper that is about 1 meter wide, and I've layered that underneath our slashed pattern. I'm just taping this side of panel 1 down like so, because once that particular panel is down, we can go ahead and start spreading. So I spread the panels by 5 centimeters or 2 inches apart. Just know the more you spread them, the wider your palazzo leg is going to be, so just keep that in mind. If you don't want it really wide, you can spread them by like 1 inch by 1.5 inches, or anything that you sort of are comfortable with. So I'm just going ahead to spread my panel 3 like so, and then to ensure that I'm actually spreading them with even amount of sort of measurement, I mark with a marker pen the edges of the panels, and then I tape them down straight away to ensure that it's sort of 2 inches apart across all of the patterns. So I'm just going ahead to mark my edges of that last panel 4, and then I'm going ahead to tape down the marked points first and then tape down the other points, because once you tape down that middle point it doesn't move as much. So I'm just adding a few more sellotape across the crouch line, the sides and the hem. So next up, you need to join the panels along the bottom since you spread them apart, and I'm just using my pattern master here to connect panel 2 to 3 using a curved line, and then I'm just going ahead to connect panel 4 to 3 using a straight line. Just ensure that it's nice and smooth along the bottom, because you don't want any weird shape on the hem of your trouser. So once that is done, this is what the front looks like. It's actually really wide but I have no regrets. I like dramatic trousers, so I look forward to what this would look like when I actually sew the main fabric. So this is what the front looks like right now. We can go ahead and cut out the spread front pattern piece. I'm just going to grab my paper scissors and I'm going to cut around my front pattern like so, getting rid of any excess paper or points that we don't need. So I'm just going in here and I'm just cutting along this inner leg like so, cutting along the bottom or the hemline, cutting along the outer leg and along the waist as well. So because this was taped down on the inside, the pattern would stay put and wouldn't really fall off since you slashed it, because we've taped it on the inside as well as on the outside, even though we've trimmed it all the way around. So this is what the front looks like. You need to cut a pair of these to have one for the left and one for the right leg of your trouser. So next up, we need to trace out our front waistband, and I like to create my waistbands without a dart in them. So how I do this is I fold in the dart on the waist and then I tape this down, so when I trace off that waistline there is not a dart allowance in there. So I'm just going to tape down the waistline so it stays nice and flat, and I'm going to grab some fresh pattern paper and I'm going to trace off my waistline as well as the exact point where my dart is. Because we've slashed and spread the dart in this particular front, I'll most likely just pleat it back into the waistbands so I don't have to think much about how to finish off the dart in the actual trouser. So I'm just going in here to use my pattern master to connect my dash line so I have the waistline of my front waistband. And then I'm going to go ahead and extend upwards by 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches. This is going to be how wide my waistband is going to be. You can decide to have yours wider or thinner. Just work with whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm just going ahead to mark 4 centimeters all the way across so you have a nice curve on the top of the waistband as well. And then you can go ahead and connect those 4 cm points together so you have a nice curve on the top of the waistband. And I'm just going in here to draw in the side. So once that is done, I went ahead and I added 1 centimeter allowance all the way around, because the way I plan on sewing this waistband is I want to cut 2 pairs, a pair for each side of the front, so there is a nice finished seam on the top of the waistband. So this is what the front waistband looks like, and with that we've sort of completed the front patterns for now. So you can go ahead and work on the back. It's essentially the same thing that we did for the front. We're going to duplicate the back patterns and then we're going to divide them into 4 panels, which are about 2 or 2.5 inches apart. So I'm just going in here to draw in my first panel like so. I'm going to move this across and I'm going to draw in a second line to create my second panel on the back of my trouser pattern. I'm going to move my long ruler even further to draw in a third line. This one doesn't go through the dart because the back of trouser patterns are usually a bit wider because of your bum and your hip, and I will go ahead to cut through this vertically drawn line so I can slash my back of the trouser, and then I can have my panels which I can go ahead to spread to make it look similar to the front. Using my marker pen, I'm just writing which panel is which, 1 all the way to 4, and then I'm going to grab some fresh pattern paper and put that underneath of our slashed pattern. So first off, I'm just taping down this outer leg panel like so it doesn't move while I spread the others apart. So with my tape measure, I'm spreading by 5 centimeters or 2 inches. Just keep in mind, the more you spread them, the wider your palazzo is going to be. So once I have marked the edges of panel 2, I'm just adding some sellotape along the 2 edges and along the bottom as well. So I went ahead to spread out all of my patterns all the way till 4. Remember to add tape on the inside as well as along the hem. So when you connect the panels together along the hem, you have one smooth line that goes across the bottom of your trouser. So using my marker pen and my pattern master, I'm connecting my panels like so, remembering to use the curved edge when necessary so I don't have any funny edges that I don't want. So when that is done, this pattern is good to cut out. So we have our slashed and spread back trouser. I'm just going in to cut along this edge like so, along the outer and the inner leg of my trouser, as well as along the crouch line and along the waistline. Before you go even further, I suggest you double check that the front and the back match along the side seams. So when I say the side seams, I mean the outer leg and the inner leg, because what you don't want to happen is you have your front being a bit longer or a bit shorter than the back and things don't match, and then you have to start cutting and trimming things at the end of the day. So now that we're sure that they match and I'm happy with that, I can go ahead to make my back waistband. So the way I did the front is the way we're going to do the back as well. I'm just going ahead to folding my darts because I don't want my waistband to have a dart. So I'm just going to fold this inwards like so, pointing towards the center back of this back pattern. Then I'm going to tape down the edges so they don't ruffle around. And I'm going to get a fresh pattern paper and trace off the waistline like we did for the front. So I'm just going in here to trace along the stitch line itself, so I'm sure that I'm actually tracing this pattern the correct way. I realized this when I did the front, and when you join patterns together, you have to remember that the stitch lines have to go together. So whatever seam allowance you're adding in one pattern, whatever pattern is connecting to that should have the same amount of seam allowance, so they sort of match along the stitch line. So I went ahead to extend my pattern upwards. I'm adding my 1 centimeter seam allowance downwards, and I'll go ahead to mark my 4 cm across. So I just grab my front waistband to double check that they fit, because the front and the back waistband should obviously fit. So I'm just going ahead to correct my side edge. I'm marking across the top of the waistband, and then I'm connecting my dots together so I have my back pattern waistband all done. So I'm just going in here to add whatever seam allowance I need to add along the side. I'm going to add that along the center back and along the top of the waistband as well. Once you've drawn in all the necessary lines, remember to write what the pattern is. This is the back waistband. I will need 2 pairs, a pair for each leg of the palazzo trouser, and you feel free to cut so you have your actual pattern ready to work with. So with that done, we're done with the back patterns, and we can move on to make the side pocket, which sits on the front of the palazzo trouser. This is optional, but if you want to have pockets, this is the way I sort of do like the side pocket. The first thing I do is I draw a vertical line that goes through the middle of the dart, and then I draw in the pocket shape, which normally looks like this. I like to have my pocket sit above my hip line, so it feels comfortable when I put my hand in there and I don't have things dropping out of my pocket when I sit down. So I'm just going in here to draw in the shape of the pocket, and it's about, give or take, 4 centimeters from my hip line, as you can see here. So once I'm sure that that's fine and that's correct, I can go ahead to move on to the next step. So I mark 5 centimeters or 2 inches from that vertical line that we drew in this direction towards the bottom of the screen, and then I just extend that outwards into the seam allowance. So from the side of the trouser downwards, from the stitch edge downwards, I mark 4 inches, and then I extend that line outwards into the seam allowance, and then I connect them together, and that is going to become the opening of the side pocket. So once I've connected that in place, you can add a notch at this point, and you can add it later. So next up, I'm going to add a 1 centimeter seam allowance inwards of this line that we just drew, because the way this pocket design works is there's going to be a facing and there's going to be a pocket back, because you're going to cut this edge of the front pattern out. So once I've added my notch like this, I'm going to first up trace out my pocket bag on fresh pattern paper. So I'm just using my pattern master here, and I'm going to trace off the bottom edge like so. I'm going to trace off the straight line on this edge. I'm going to trace out my waistline as well as the side. Don't forget to add notches, because when it's time to fit this pocket bag to the pocket facing, those notches would help you to sort of join things accurately. So I added my 1 centimeter seam allowance, and I'm adding my annotations saying this is a pocket bag, and I'll need to cut 2, 1 for each side of the trouser. So once that is done, and once you're happy with that, you're free to cut out your pocket bag pattern, and this is what it should look like. With that all done, we can move ahead to trace out the pocket facing, which is the other side of the pocket. So I'm going to get some fresh pattern paper, and we're going to be tracing, you know, this line that we drew. Yes, this line is what we're going to be needing for the pocket facing edge. So I'm just drawing it outwards like so, including the seam allowance point, and we're going to be drawing a vertical line that goes like this, as well as this edge of the pocket bag that we traced off earlier on. So don't forget to trace off the sides as well as the waistline. Don't forget to add your notches, so when you're joining your pieces together during construction, it's easy to know what goes with what. So I went ahead to add 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around. Just ensure that the seam allowances match when it comes to like the actual trouser and the pocket facing itself. So I'm just cutting out this curved edge like so. I'm going to cut out the excess on the side, and this is what the pocket facing should look like. Next up, you need to cut out this edge from your main front pattern, because you wouldn't need that since the pocket bag has this side to complete the waist of your trouser. So this is what this particular edge of the front looks like, and by the time you layer your pocket bag underneath, it will be completely sealed and you wouldn't have any hole or any opening exposing your skin underneath. So with that all done, we have all of our front patterns done and all of the patterns for the palazzo trouser complete. For the lining, you can use the same patterns here. Just remember to layer your pocket bag underneath the front when you're cutting the front pattern, so you have a full front, and then you cut the front and the backs shorter by 2 centimeters along the hem. But with that all done, these are the patterns all complete. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment your thoughts and suggestions down below, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be the sewing tutorial for this particular pattern. Until my next video, have a good morning, afternoon and evening wherever you are. Bye.